The critics of Rotten Tomatoes have lost their ever-loving minds for thinking that Venom: The Last Dance deserves a 36% rating. Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to another movie review. I am your host, The Knight, and today we'll be discussing the third Venom movie. So without further ado, let's begin. When the first trailer came out for this film, I admittedly was skeptical on how it would perform. At the time, Deadpool and Wolverine had reignited the fire inside of the hearts of superhero fans, and the trailer for the second Joker film had seemed promising at the time. So with no other huge superhero movies coming out until Kraven the Hunter in December, I was worried that the film would be overshadowed by both previous projects. Now, to the film's benefit, the second Joker film was a complete flop, so it had a better chance of performing than I expected. On top of that, the film was a lot more fun to watch than I expected. Sure, it was nowhere near as groundbreaking as Deadpool and Wolverine, but that was a good thing. The reason I am saying that is because the entire trilogy of Venom films has always had a sense of meaningful fun, giving us decent, violent stories with some fun humor and incredible symbiotic action. They had a formula that mostly fit for the Venom stories they wanted to make. And for the most part, it worked for this trilogy. In fact, I would dare to say that this formula worked extremely well for this movie because it is the conclusion to this story. For now. Get into that later. Admittedly, another reason I was worried about this film was because the film was rated PG-13 instead of rated R like we were hoping for. After the second film, Venom: Let There Be Carnage, did not live up to its name. Many were hoping that the final film of the trilogy would be rated R. While this is not the case for the film, it still delivered on its promise to be more graphic and violent. Seriously, the film killed it with a lot of the action scenes and fight choreography that we were given. Unfortunately, I can't go into too much detail on this because of spoilers, but I can promise you that it does have the guts and violence in it that we have been craving for these films. The only major issue that this film seemed to have was the pacing of scenes at certain points of the film. There were moments that revealed certain traits about newer characters that were introduced that felt important to note. Unfortunately, a handful of those scenes felt as though they were cut off too early, and others felt like they lingered for too long. The result of this made the more relevant characters to the plot feel disconnected from the audience. While all characters, the older ones and newer, did stay relevant to the plot at hand, I believe that if those scenes were more balanced, then it would have affected the audience in a more impactful way. Not to say that the emotional scenes in this film were lackluster in any way, but I feel as though we could have been given more. Now, the only other major issue in this film is something I can't really talk about because it would be major spoilers. Like I said before, these reviews are more of a slight spoiler review because I want you guys to go see the film for itself. All I can really say about the issue I had is that the ending felt like a conclusion to the trilogy, but also a continuation into something bigger. The reason I have an issue with this is because the way the film ended felt like a good conclusion to the story, but the overarching threat and bigger plot that we were given going forward felt as though it was still supposed to be a continuation of Venom's story, and the way it ended did not make sense for that story to continue on to the bigger plot. I know that's very vague. People who watch the film already might know what I'm talking about, but I can't get into it without majorly spoiling the film. I do recommend you go see this though. It was a lot of fun to watch. So with all that being said, I love the action. I love the violence that they included, even more of that we needed. The slight issues were a bit of a problem, but they didn't take away from the fun of the film. And even though the ending and the bigger plot don't quite connect, the ending was still a good send-off to the trilogy. So in my honest opinion, I would give Venom: The Last Dance an 8.5 out of 10. A full review will be given out when the film releases on DVD and streaming. I do highly recommend you go watch it. It does not deserve the 36% given to it by the critics. It did get a 79% from the audience by the time this film is being produced and made. So hopefully that gives you more insight to go see this film, because the actual fan base is supporting it more than those nut jobs who think they know what they're talking about with superhero films. Sorry, I know that sounded a little harsh. I just have a bit of a vendetta against the critics and how they rate films in particular. I know they're supposed to be different. I know they judge it differently than the audience, but the way they do it, especially the way they did it for this film, just did not add up or did not make sense. So please go support this film. It is the last movie in the trilogy, and it was a lot of fun to watch. So until that full breakdown comes out, or until the next video, please consider liking and subscribing to support more content like this. Please feel free to leave any comments down below, whether it is to suggest a film that you want me to review, or if you wish to discuss the movie. But with all that being said, I am your host tonight, signing off for now. Have a wonderful day. God bless you. Take care. Another